That means that money grew, the volume, the quantity of dollar bills grew at a rate that was 6 times faster than the actual spending power of the money grew. Bottom line, the dollar bill, it's paper. It's paper. And our monetary system is depleting its value. And if all you're doing is holding on the cash, and we'll talk more about that. It's not just about in your wallet or in your bank account. It plays out through all of this, Wall Street, everywhere, because it's all based on this, the US dollar. So that gap, and again, this is a recording, so I know some might get this right away, but if you don't, just listen to it again and again and again. And, wherever you're hearing this, ask a question in the comments or message me personally, and we'll see what we can do to talk about it in the next episode, okay? Which I will do my best to cover this, because once you understand this, then you understand the loss of wealth. Now, you've heard President Trump talk about how this is the strongest economy we've ever had. And now think about what I just shared with you about the dollar, okay? The loss of true value, spending power in the dollar is directly it's opposite of what he is sharing, right? Because we've had so much loss in value. The thing is, and this is there's just so many ways to go with all of this, and I apologize because the topic is so deep, but I'm going to peel it back little by little as we go through this, and hopefully as you start to put these pieces together, you'll understand, okay? So the simplest way to determine if our economy is really prospering is what they call the velocity of money. So again, I open up Google, I type in the velocity of money, and it takes me to a chart on the Fed site. Once again, Federal Reserve economic data. So I go to that chart, and what you will see on this chart, if I hold it right at the peak of velocity money was in 1997. And what the velocity of money represents is the frequency of money changing hands. The idea is the higher that number, the more prosperous the economy is, because there's more money circulating through the economy. However, if you look to the left, you'll see that it's stayed around 1.8, and then from 1990 it rose up to 1997 to its peak, and there's where it started to fall off. And there's been a few peaks, but it has dropped and dropped and dropped. And you can see during 2020, it has absolutely just plummeted. Money is not circulating through the public today like it was in 1997. And that shows up in the profit, in the, how do I want to say this, in the gross domestic product. Are we producing more and selling more? We're not. Companies that are showing profit, most of them are showing profit not because of goods and services being sold. They're showing profits for other reasons. And it has to do with what's going on with the US dollar. When this stimulus package, the 1,200 was sent out, there are some stats out there to suggest that a lot of people held on to that money. Again, velocity of money. How much money is circulating through the economy? Well, the people holding on to that money was not the goal. So many subjects here in this one little deal. I literally could spend a week talking about this and still have more to touch on. So our economy, the American economy, has been on a decline since 1997. Now, even though we have seen some increases from one term to the next and job increases depending on the president, all that stuff, right? That does not change the overwhelming fact that money is not changing hands as quickly today in our economy as it used to. So that brings up another point. With all this new money being printed in the tunes of trillions and trillions of dollars, how come it's not being circulated through the economy? And I'm going to leave that there as a teaser for you, because we'll talk about that more on another podcast. But it's getting to the heart. Well, not necessarily the heart, but the outcome of what is going on with this relationship with the Fed, the Treasury, and the banks, and even today the markets. It is not benefiting you and I as citizens, as people of America. We are not benefiting from what's going on. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So my thesis, and there's going to be some that will argue with me, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I'm not here to agree with everybody. I'm not here to look to have everybody agree with me. I am here to show you and educate you on wealth, what it is, when you actually have wealth, and and only when you truly have wealth are you protected. Money, cash, money, no matter its form, whether it's stocks, any kind of equity, derivative, whatever, if it's based on the US dollar or if it's based on currency, it does not protect you for some of for some of the reasons I just shared with you. Now, the last thing I want to do is, if you open up Google and you do a search for US debt clock, many have probably seen this. I just want to touch on this quickly and then I'll close off this session. But if you go to the site, you'll see all of these stats. And like right now, the US national debt is $27 trillion. $27 trillion. So that's a 27 followed by 12 positions, 12 zeros. Now, when you hover over any part of this, it will pop up a little message explaining what that number represents. So if you're curious, again, just go to Google and search US or Bing or whatever search engine you're using. Search US space debt space clock. And to be clear, debt, that's D as in Delta, E as in Echo, B as in Bravo, and T as in Tom. I should know the call letter, but I don't. Okay, so debt as in money owed. So US space debt space clock. And you can see, so the national debt is at it's $27 trillion. Slide down, they even talk about derivatives. Currency and credit derivatives are now at $569 trillion. So we're going from 27 trillion, so 569 minus 27 divided by 27. So the derivative market out there right now, and this is just a guesstimate because there are numbers out there that suggest that it's in the quadrillions when it comes to derivatives. So we go from 27 trillion in US debt, US national debt, to currency and credit derivatives that are being shown on this debt clock. And I'm going to share that I do not believe that everything is being shown here. But the currency and credit derivatives is totaling at this point $569 trillion, so 20 times more than what the national debt is of the U.S. We are not in a great position financially. And it's not just the United States. This is a global thing. This is a reality. This is where we are. And so if you're not willing to take responsibility, if you're not willing to take responsibility for your money, for your wealth, for your personal, your financial freedom, you are not going to have a future that is financially free, because we have a system today that by its very design, in other words, it's a machine. It's going to keep doing what it does. It's not going to change. That machine that took the dollar from $1 down to less than 4 cents is going to continue to take away its value. So it's going to go from less than 4 cents to wherever it goes in another 10, 20 years. And the velocity of money, which, although it's simple, it says a great deal about the wealth of the country, right? The amount of money that is circulating through the economy. And we are at a low. We are at a low, a record low. And over the last year, it has come straight down. So we are not living in the greatest economy ever. And I can't be more clear about that. I talk to people and they tell me, well, I've made money with my investments. And okay, you've made money, but that does not mean that we are in the greatest economy ever. And I promise you, those who do not cash out their positions, who do not manage that profit that they have, who hold on and hold on, they're going to have a moment of great crisis, financial crisis, because the way these markets are being supported today are by the Federal Reserve. And it is a risky, risky thing to be involved in this market without actually understanding what I'm talking about fully and just understanding the market as a whole. There is no such thing as easy money. And there are people out there that are desperate to make up for lost time, and you can't do that. Wealth is not an overnight process. So I hope you get value out of this. I'm not sure how long this went, probably a little long, but my goal is to keep this 30 minutes or less. In every I'd like to ideally hit 15. However, this is a complicated discussion. And all I can do is break down what I can break down and do my best to break it down in a way that you actually walk away from this understanding something more than what you do today about money. Okay? So this is about putting the power or control back into your hands to understand who's in your pocket right now and you don't even realize it. And as you notice throughout the conversation, there were so many points I kept saying, well, that's much bigger. That's the thing. This conversation is so big. We could take a sliver of the conversation and talk about it for a week and still not touch all these other things around it. So again, I'm James Possible. This is the first official podcast of the Wealth Warriors Revolution podcast. My program is Wealth Slaying Warriors. You can find me at my Facebook group, www.startslaying.com. And remember, it's all about generational wealth, going from powerless to powerful. So to go from powerless to powerful, you have to understand wealth and generational wealth. We have a chance, each of us, to take back control of our finances. But education is the first step. You have got to be willing to do the work. You've got to be willing to commit to the learning. And that's why I'm here. And I will be announcing programs as we go through this, where I will walk you through a process over a year's time where you can literally work through all of this and begin to put yourself into a better situation financially, where you can begin to protect yourself financially. So I invite you to join the Wealth Slaying Warriors, to become one of the few that is actually willing to take responsibility for your wealth and your family's wealth and the wealth of your children and the generations to follow. So thank you for joining me. Again, this is James Possible. I look forward to sharing with you and hearing from you on the next podcast. Until then, I wish you the best.